So welcome to an episode of Coffee and Code. I'm Mark Franks with Acumatica. I'm here with a number of developer MVPs, and I have a special guest that I'm really pleased to have join us today, and that's Gabriel Michaud. And Gabriel is a longtime developer, started when he was 12 years old, from what I remember, having early discussions with him. So like a lot of developers, they got excited about computing when they were very young, and they just kept at it and turned it into a profession. And Gabriel started up our Montreal office, and he's since left and started his own company, and I'll let him talk a little bit about that. But I'm really excited to have you, Gabriel. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself before we get started?
Hey, good to see you, Mark, once again, and thanks for having me on your show. It's a pleasure being with the other Acumatica Developer MVPs today, and I'm looking forward to a very good and productive hour with you guys and challenging questions, hopefully.
Yeah. So we talked about the way we're going to frame this is, I'm always excited when Gabriel accepts an invitation to do anything. So, when he did the hackathon last year and when he does presentations, they're always top notch. So I'm always excited about that. But what I really want to focus on in this episode is really about, how do you take your skill set as a developer and keep it sharp and go to the next level. Some of the best practices. What has Gabriel learned over time, his long career as a developer, to really stay at the top of his game? And, everyone hopefully that's listening to this wants to be a great developer and want to be more efficient and, learn all that they can to be a great developer. And that's kind of the theme, the framework of the discussion here. So I know some of you have some questions, and we can get into hopefully a really good conversation about that particular topic. So does anyone have any questions?
Sure, I've got one. Thanks, Gabriel, for joining us on this forum. We really appreciate it. One of my questions is, as a modern developer, we're kind of distracted a lot by a lot of modern buzzwords like test-driven development, TDD, agile, microservices, you name it. And I've been developing for a long time, and I don't remember having so many different methodologies that had been talked about back then. And so it can be a distraction. And I was just wondering what your experience is and what some of your advice is on things to focus on or maybe not focus on.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I think, Joe, that you bring a very good point. It can be, and it is unfortunately a distraction for many developers. You mentioned the methodologies, but I think this also applies to development frameworks, especially in the JavaScript space where things change so much. So you have React, you have Angular, and then you have Vue.js and whatnot. There's a new framework that's born every day. I remember when I was hiring for Acumatica Labs that it was often a struggle to find developers because they were not very excited about the tech stack in Acumatica. I mean, personally, I love it. I think it's great. It's modern, and compared to anything else on the market, it's ages in front and more advanced than anything else. But some people really like to talk about the latest buzzwords. They want to have that on their CVs, and they don't understand the fundamentals behind them, and this is usually a problem. I recall there was this guy that came up, and he kept telling me about all the frameworks and TDD and all this stuff that he was doing. But looking at his resume and experience, it was clear that this guy had never shipped something significant in his career. Yeah, maybe he worked on some projects, but ultimately, I think at the end of the day, what matters is to ship, and to ship good quality code. Personally, how you get there doesn't matter much to me. I've seen some of these methodologies succeed, others have failed. I think you just need to be cautious not to jump too early on something that is brand new, and do it without considering the particular project that you are working on. building an ERP system, for instance, is not the same as building a quick application to handle like one very small requirement. You don't need to think that much further, and you don't necessarily need to use the same methodologies and tools for smaller apps than for larger apps.
Right. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So what's your experience? Are you using any like particular methodology, like at Crestwood? Are you like Agile, Scrum? Are you doing more traditional waterfall development?
Yeah, we're definitely using Agile in such a way that we're doing a lot of, I guess the buzzword is dark deployments, where we have to maintain a live production environment or release of our code, and we'll add features, new integrations and such, and we have to be careful that since we're releasing continuously, that we isolate the bits of code that we had just developed and may not be completely tested yet. And so we're just kind of, it's not necessarily test driven. We're not really into that yet because it's not as easy said than done in the Acumatica environment. We can do small unit tests, sure, but when it comes to testing, integration testings for the framework, it's a lot more involved.
Yeah, have you played with the new integration testing features, unit testing feature, I'm sorry, that are now available? Like, I think something was made available like in the last 2 years or so.
Yeah, we started with that and frankly just hadn't finished up experimenting with it, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah, it's one of those things where you need to build this into your architecture early on. It's pretty hard to bolt on unit testing once you have an app that is in place and that was not designed for that. Not impossible, but I'm like even seeing it at Velixo with our own product. I've done like code level testing before, but never at the unit level down to what like some of the like purists I would say like to do. And one of the guys that I hired like had a lot more experience than me with TDD, and he's been refactoring things just to make it easier to unit test. I do like his approach. It's much better than what I had seen before in a like pure TDD environment, where basically every single change to the code would break a test, even though we were not actually like, you know, introducing a bug or anything. The testing itself required like so much maintenance that it was ridiculous. And yet, like there were still like very like valid bugs and problems in the app that were not caught by this unit testing, because the unit testing is just like testing the developer's understanding of a requirement. The requirement itself might not be properly handled.
Yeah, we're constantly evaluating that cost benefit balance, and sometimes the amount of testing that you can set up outweighs or is more costly than it's worth.
Yeah. I mean, like I don't like to view any of these methods like as a dogma that you must follow. In the agile world, I know a few of my friends that used to work at a local consulting company that is like really agile centric, and they are well known for their trainings and what they do. And I know that they will look down on people that don't do agile the right way. This is where like they, you know, completely lose me. I think there are like good things with all these methodologies, like with agile. I like the idea of shipping early, shipping often, and constantly validating your design with an actual customer, somebody that understands and will be using the product. I think this is key to success in modern software development. On the other end, if you're building a complex solution, let's say you were engineering a new airplane, well, I'm not sure that you can have a deliverable in 2 weeks and like constantly iterate and ship. It's an airplane after all.
Yeah.
I wish
I have some.
Sorry. Yeah, I wish I could find it. I last time when we had the rehearsal, Boeing built in flight. was on YouTube. This is a video that I think it was Mike C that showed me this. It's pretty funny anyway. There's like a brand new commercial airplane that's flying. Like there's no panels, it's just the frame, and you have like people working in flight, like trying to plug in all the parts and everything. So it's a good analogy, like for anyone that wants to push back on like people that are like too focused on being agile or whatever. I think this is a good one. I like it. So
yeah.
I have some experience I'd like to share regarding Agile and TDD. At Repay, we've been heavily ramping up on Agile processes. We have a full-time Agile coach that works on our team. So we're doing our daily stand-ups, and it really does help. Like the whole team is always aware of what's going on at all times. Problems come up. Team members are able to jump in and help out more often. TDD wise, I've always been a big fan of TDD. Often you can't. It's harder than it sounds. You can very much put as much effort into your projects to automate testing as you do the actual product itself. So it is very resource intensive. Something breaks, like you need a dedicated resource to really do it right. In the past, we've primarily been doing that with just like doing contract-based API sort of stuff to automate. Now that test SDK stuff is mandatory, we're now migrating all of that stuff to test SDK. And in terms of that, there's also a unit testing framework for Acumatica that allows you to do smaller, more real deal unit tests. I've recently kind of got myself up to speed on that. There's some challenges in terms of working with that, but all in all, it really does help with the development process, because you get into that red-green refactor cycle, and it does help speed up the development process. And as you go on and change code and refactor stuff, things just bubble up a lot sooner that you just don't want to find in the field. So like we're aware of stuff quickly before it ships.
So I think last time when we were, talking about this discussion, I think Brian Stevens, who wasn't able to join us, asked a really good question. So I'll be Brian's proxy. He asked about, what do you do? What's your habits as a developer, and what websites that you could share that you're always visiting that you get little nuggets of wisdom from? And I remember him asking that question. So can you give us a little bit about some of the sites that you visit, some of the websites that have really good information that you keep a handle on and visit all the time, and other habits that you have over a time of a week or a month that you do?
Yeah, so I use Feedly as a feed reader, and I subscribe to a bunch of blogs that I all read through my feed reader. I have an Acumatica folder that contains a lot of Acumatica related blogs. Brian Stevens has a blog now, and he posted like very good articles. There's the Acumatica Asia blog, Sergey V from Singapore as well, a longtime Acumatica community member, also has a development blog. Lately, I've been spending a lot of time on the new Acumatica community pages. Not so much development related. I'm mostly helping users with like standard, like run-of-the-mill Acumatica questions, but once in a while there will be something Acumatica related. This is one of the ways I'm keeping current. I'm not just concerned about keeping current with the SDK and encoding aspect, but also what's new on the functional side of things. And this is where like things are like also moving very, very quickly. One of the things that I've seen in my career is that like quite often developers are not interested in the business side. Well, when I say business, I mean like the actual like ERP software that is Acumatica, and they only care about the framework. And I've experienced the same at another job with a different ERP solution, and really to better understand your users, the requirements, and design a solution, I think you have to understand how the product works. So it's also important for me to stay current with everything that Acumatica is doing. Stack Overflow, obviously, for anything that is Acumatica related, I was, and Mark, I'm sure will remember, I was a huge proponent of Stack Overflow inside Acumatica. I was pretty much against any proprietary, private, internal forum. Like I felt like Stack Overflow would give us a lot more visibility. And over the years, I've participated a lot, but nowadays I mostly read and consume content because there's a good community. I see lots of MVPs, other users will post content, but that is also in my feed reader. So actually, I might be able to share that.
Yeah.
The window right here. So that's my feed reader on my Mac. So I have quite a few, and anytime there's a new article, it will show up here. Acumatica Singapore one, Acumatica.dev. This is Brian Stevens. The ADN blog and the Acumatica blog is also tracked there. So
that's good to hear. We put a lot of effort in that.
Yeah, it's also part of that. I receive your messages on Teams and by email, so I will often see the posts before they come up in the feed reader. But as you can see, there's like more than just development related stuff here. Newest questions tag Acumatica. So this is from Stack Overflow. So I will also get the questions here. This way I don't have to monitor like and open Stack Overflow daily. And once in a while when I see a good question, I will chime in. This is my not pet peeve, but like something that I don't have much patience with, and I think I need to get better at that. Sometimes I see a question and it's clear somebody did not spend time digging. They are basically asking for feed me with the solution, and I don't care about everything else. So I don't like I don't like to handle these questions, and I think the Stack Overflow community as a whole is not really good with that either. So I know that some users felt they were like pushed away from Stack Overflow at first, but like on the other end, like once you have a good question, like you'll find like amazing answers to all your questions, and sometimes very detailed. I like the voting aspect, and this is great. I do have like more general development related blogs that I follow. Things have been quiet, I would say, in the last year, maybe because of the pandemic, but some of the blogs that I've been reading are less active than they used to. But this is like this is a daily activity. Like at least like twice a day, I will open the feed reader, pick up the new feeds, and there's lots of stuff that is not even related to ERP and development in there as well.
Sure. Yeah, and I can read that it said Smart Feed. Is that the product?
No, this one is it's NetNewsWire. It's just a Feedly client.
Yep.
Let me show you.
It had a nice interface, so I just wanted to get it more specific.
Yeah. There's an iOS client that's because I'm on a Mac, but you'll find like Feedly as its own client as well. This is basically a replacement for Google Reader. That was the first RSS reader that I used. Google like as a tendency of discontinuing products with short notice.
Yep.
I noticed that's running on a Mac. Is there a Windows version of that application?
I don't know if there's a Windows version. However, you don't even need to use.
It would be nice if you can share your library or your links.
Yes, Feedly. So Feedly, this is a service that tracks all my services. I will post it in the chat window. That's Feedly, and then you can find Feedly clients for Windows. Oh, actually, there's an app section. Windows 10.
Excellent.
There's a bunch of apps here. Yeah. It's pretty well supported, but in reality, you don't even need to use a client. You can just log into the Feedly website, just add all your blogs. Let's see if I can find it. Gabriel here. Yeah. So you have the same thing in the browser. I just feel it's nicer with a native app, and I have a native app on my smartphone as well. Okay. Actually, Blogroll, and we should have something like that on the ADN website, Mark. I think that this would be helpful, like all the bloggers in the Acumatica community. So acumatica.dev, this is Brian's blog. Like very detailed, well-researched articles. I sent him a note on LinkedIn after reading his first post. Very good. Acumatica Asia blog.
Yep, that's good feedback. I should actually have a blog roll and just list all the top blogs. You're right.
Yeah. This one I think is not going to be updated as much as it used to because it was mainly managed by Sergey Marinich, who now lives in Montreal. Last post was from the other developer in Southeast Asia, but there is a lot of content there, archive content that will be very helpful in some cases. I recall finding, just Googling and finding articles on this website more than once.
Are you sharing the right screen there, Gabriel?
Oh.
Yeah, you're sharing the team screen. There you go.
Oh, sorry, guys. I'm just scrolling through and sorry, guys. So feedly.com, this is the service I use to track all my RSS feeds. And if you want to use an app, like on the Feedly website, you'll find apps. And there's one for pretty much every operating system. There is something for Windows 10 as well. I don't have experience with these
I'm
apps.
surprised to see BlackBerry there.
Yeah, there's Windows Phone as well in Symbian.
Yeah.
BlackBerry.
So they're covering everything.
Yes. This is what basically replaced Google Reader for me, and I have the native app on my Mac, on my iPhone, and I use that. So I was just going through the blogs. This one here, the asiablog.acumatica.com. That's a good one. Not going to be updated, I don't think, as much as it used to. There's acumatica.dev, Brian Stevens, Kim Rodman, as one that is related to the product on AUG forums. That's another website that I follow. By the way, like all these sites and forums, there's usually an RSS link. So if you just want to track a page, you can add a link to your feed reader. So that's a good way to know when there's a question in one of the areas that you're interested in. So actually, I might find it here just to show you. So AUG forums. Where's the list here? Forums. Well, there's nothing. Let's say generic inquiries. There's nothing that is development related here. Yeah, but you can see the RSS link here. So if you have this link, you can add it into Feedly or into your favorite feed reader. And then whenever there is a new post, it will just show up. So again, if you have 25 websites and Stack Overflow tags that you want to follow, this is a good way. You don't need to visit all the sites daily. So that's how I stay current. I have quite a few blogs here, in all sorts of topics. And then I have one view, everything that's been posted today or that's unread. Right here.
Okay. So what other questions do you guys have?
I have a question, if nobody has. When you decided to move from development to business, how easy that step for you was?
Oh, it's never a decision that I made. Yeah, I was an employee at Acumatica, but I've had businesses my whole life. I was 14 years old and reselling hockey cards on the side of the street. I had set up my own table and everything so that it looked like a real business. And I launched my first computer business at 16 years old. I was always a pretty independent person, so it fits my personality really well. What happened is that during college I had to complete an internship, and I ended up like joining an accounting software company, and I stayed there for like many years. And then in between this and Acumatica, I had my VAR business where we picked up Acumatica, and then I sold this, joined Acumatica. So I've been going, back and forth, but it's something that that has been very, very important for me since my early days. I knew that I'd be running my own thing in my career, and I love it, honestly. My personal challenge these days is transitioning from being a one-man show or like having a business that relies on my name to an actual business that is sustainable, that runs by itself, and that has value to somebody else. So eventually, let's say I want to sell this business to another company, it would be valuable. If you're just, let's say you're Zelensky Inc. and this is just you, well, you're an amazing developer, but ultimately you cannot sell Zelensky Inc. because the day Zelensky is gone, the business is worth not that much. So this is something I've never, been able to build to what I call a successful level, and this is what I'm trying to do right now with Velixo, and I think that we are on the right track. Is this something? I think you're in this process right now, Yuri, right?
Yeah. That's why I'm curious about this moment. I cannot say that I was that I felt like I'm always businessman. I used to be hard worker. Suddenly,
well, exactly,
business,
You used to be a hard worker. Are you slacking off? Is that what you're saying?
I started
starting a business. You're going to work harder, right, Gabriel?
Yeah, you work hard. But if you're a hard worker, it's natural for you. And Yuri, I started the same way. You see yourself, you work hard, and you're around businesses, customers, people, and you understand that you can overachieve, and then you feel like you're probably deserving more income, so you start doing this by yourself, and it's pretty easy, I would say, to go from employee to, let's say,
entrepreneur.
Not entrepreneur, that's not the word. Yeah, to an independent consultant status, especially in the Acumatica world today. There are so much opportunities. The challenge, and this is something I felt that was not for me. Is growing consulting practice, building a team of consultants that are skilled, that will share the same values, that will deliver with the same pace, same quality that you do, and basically scale that to a point where the business is self-sustainable. And I did not enjoy doing it in consulting, and I felt like it was just too difficult to find good resources. And I decided to take another approach and build IP with a product. I was initially thinking of building multiple products, but we ended up with one that is very strong. But to me, having an IP, having product was my passport to this real independence that I'm trying to achieve.
So Gabriel, I had a question on another topic, slightly different topic. Our company works with a lot of different releases of Acumatica. We develop a lot of different solutions for a lot of different customers, all on maybe different versions and stuff. And keeping those kind of things organized is can be a challenge. But we also struggle a little bit trying to keep up with Acumatica's new releases in some of the functionality that may or may not interfere or play differently with some of the code that we've already written. Do you have any tips about how to handle those things?
Multiple tips, actually. So I think that you need to customize Acumatica wisely. There are like many different ways to shoot yourself in the foot. Just yesterday, I was responding to somebody that was asking about like, is there like, I don't know if you're familiar, I believe this is ASP.NET MVC, but somebody was asking about a view bag. Like somebody was asking like, how can I set up a view bag in Acumatica? So they basically want to track global variables at the graph or the session level. And somebody like answered like, hey, you can use PX context, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sure. But this is not the right way to do it. And you will likely run into problems later on if you do this. Same way with customizations. Yeah, you can override everything. You can even call into protected methods. There are like examples out there. You can copy paste an entire graph and just change a few things. But these are examples of things that can and will definitely go wrong with new releases. So how you customize and how you extend is actually very important. There are like multiple ways to do things, and I'm sure that with your experience, Joe, you already know what is like very reliable and what is like extremely flaky and likely to break. Okay, so if you have things that like will break and is likely to break, well, I think this requires special attention. So you definitely want to have a good integration testing. So by using the Acumatica test SDK that Robert was mentioning. So ensure that you have automation testing on all the different builds and releases that you support. Ideally, if you can, and I'm curious, like I will mention it, but then it's really a question, like if there's anyone doing this with Acumatica, like if you can like set up continuous integration, continuous delivery platform where every single commit that you do on Git or whatever your source code management system is, like gets tested right away. So if you make a change and it breaks, right away. If Acumatica makes a change and it breaks in one of the versions, right away. But this is time consuming, so this is why I would focus on the stuff that is likely to break. So the PX overrides, for example, like if the function signature changes, it will definitely not compile. The good news is that since 2018-19, probably Acumatica has this compatibility checker where it does a binary like check of your code, and it will tell you right away if something is no longer supported. It's not a solution to all your problems, but it's much better than it used to be, I would say. Yeah. Has anyone set up like something like Azure DevOps or a GitHub flow to automate testing with Acumatica?
This is Josh from ASI. We haven't, but we're in the process of per request of one of our clients, actually.
Okay. Good.
We have plans to certainly do so. So at this point, our testing process is semi-automatic, where you do have to get a technician in there to wire things up and run the tests. But we certainly want to get things into a CI/CD pipeline. So all we do is commit and bang, our tests run, and we'll know up front what the problems are that we need to address.
Yeah, that's really the ideal situation. I'm just sharing my screen. This is the CI environment for Velixo reports. It's not, it's not an Acumatica customization, but at least you can see it. So let me go in the pipeline section here. So anytime there is a commit, it will add an entry here, and it will run the build process and the testing process. So if the code doesn't compile, we'll know right away, but it will also take care of running the test and preparing the customization package and the executable package for the product. It's something that takes like 25 minutes, and every single time there's a commit, it will go there.
Actually, I've got a quick question on how do you build the customization package from Azure DevOps?
It's handcrafted code, and I'll be happy to share that with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's because I do that quite a bit, just sort of locally, obviously, because I've got lots of Acumatica installs where you can run PX command line. But yeah, love to see how you do it in the cloud.
So Gabriel, I'll challenge you to write a blog on that.
Well, It's a solution that works for us, okay, and it's unfortunately not complete. We just ship a few artifacts, so let me see where is the package builder. Oh, is that in the batch file here? It's been a while, but I will. The question was from Kyle, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can. No worries. We don't need to go into the weeds right now. But
oh, do you run a batch file to create the
interesting.
XML, which you then sync up into the repository?
Connected app config. No, it's just copied here.
Hey, Joshua, can you repeat that?
Oh, I was asking if his batch file, because what we do is on the customization manager, you can save the solution down into a folder. We then run a batch file, which takes the XML from that and maps it into our repository, which we then save up, which you can then pull down and save back into an Acumatica instance as a customization package. Just curious if he had obviously he seems to have done the automation at the DevOps side.
Yeah, no, exactly. It just takes all the artifacts and zips them in one file that matches the structure that Acumatica requires.
Okay.
The XML itself, I believe, is empty in our case because no, it's not. That's not true. I'm scared of what you'll see here. I'm just opening the code. Oh, actually, I had fun with this one. I built it using .NET Core. And in .NET Core, there is system.command line, which is like 10 times better than building command line apps yourself. You define the commands, and it like takes care of all the parsing and everything. Yeah, so there's this console app, and yeah, it's a poor man's version of px.commandline.exe to keep things simple.
Okay.
And to run on Azure DevOps. Yeah. This is it. I'm happy to share that with you. It's a starting point, at least.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And I just
Thank you.
update. Oh,
Yeah. Let's see. I just want to make sure there's nothing sensitive. Yes, I will just zip this and add it to the chat as well right away. And by the way, with Velixo, we mainly rely on generic inquiries. So we tried for a long time to avoid having to ship a customization package. But unfortunately, we needed to add write-back support for the project forecasting screen, and we had to build our own graph. And also to set up single sign-on, we need to run code as well. That couldn't be done through APIs. So we added that customization package. So this is actually fairly recent. But this is for like users that want to use single sign-on, users that want to use project forecast write-back mainly. So that, I mean, that I'm trying, like, I know what will be painful and problematic, and I'm trying to avoid it as much as I can. So, you know, Joe, back to your earlier question, like the less you customize, the less you change, easier it will be for you, always. But I know it's not always an option.
Yeah, and a lot of times we have to contend with what's already at the client side installed with third parties or even the client's own development packages.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Has anyone ever managed to automate doing the source control menu in the customization project, like automatically save to folder?
I've tried it.
Yeah, me too.
So let's say before checking in, is that what you have in mind?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like before checking in. It's not, I mean, obviously it's not a critical component to it, but it's just a nice, sometimes I wish I had it automated.
I know how to call it, and I can share that, and I have an idea. Actually, can we like branch off Mark and like have some fun?
Mark is muted.
Yeah,
I'm smiling. So usually if you see me smiling, I'm okay with it.
I would say even more than.
So absolutely. I mean, that's what we want. We want kind of a free-flowing discussion. I mean, we set a framework, but just like development, you got to break out of that framework, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, I would say even more important than calling save project to folder, I think load project. But again, I'm
Yeah,
I'm just like every client. As soon as I hear, oh, you could do this, I'm like, well, can you do this as well?
Yeah, and what you're talking about is all workflow that we have to do every day, all day long. And so automating those little pieces.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, like when I if I pull a commit, I want to.
Right.
I just want to load it. I want to merge them and I want to load it into my, because I swear I've overwritten so much stuff because I just didn't load a customization project change that came down in a commit, and then I just overwrote it with my local copy with a save project to folder. So I'm extremely interested. I think I could probably guess everyone's done that at least once.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be actually, I think this would be a good hackathon project, just to integrate with Git or TFS inside Visual Studio, just so you can automate all of that. So here's the link. Mark, I was not able to drag and drop the file, so I just shared it from my personal SharePoint.
Okay.
This is custom code to build a customization project from DevOps. Right here.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah, I had to dig into how Acumatica handles the saving of customization projects for my Acu Shell, Acumatica console, or REPL at the last hackathon. A few weeks back, I updated the project. Acumatica is running an internal security penetration testing, and they asked me if I could make this work. They want to try to hack the Acumatica cloud using this console thing that I built. So this was based off an earlier project that I built to improve the Acumatica code editor. I wanted to have a modern editor with full IntelliSense, and I reused this. And behind the scenes, I am invoking the save project feature to make IntelliSense work. Actually, I'm not going to use the console here, even though it's pretty cool. I will open customization projects instead. Let's take this one here. Well, standard Acumatica code editor has been replaced with Monaco. This is an open source project managed by Microsoft. It's the same editor used in VS Code, and it works in the browser. So it's much better. The keyboard behavior is much closer to Visual Studio, and it has IntelliSense support, which was the most challenging piece to build. I think it will take a few seconds to fire up here. Hopefully it works. It was working in the console an hour ago. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I can do px dot date px access. Let's say px access dot. My computer is lagging badly right now. Yeah, I think it's incomplete in this case. Oh yeah, now I see. Okay, yeah. PX asset, get branch, CD. So you have full IntelliSense. If you over a function, you still different signatures. So I mean, just like you would expect from a modern code editor. And one of the things that I thought would be quite cool in there is also to add the ability to view the extension fields right away. So let's say you extend, customer. And you add your own field, my field. I also wanted this field to be available in the IntelliSense. So it basically meant that behind the scenes, I need to invoke the source control, save project to folder option to get all the files that are part of this project in a folder. And actually, I just realized that what I'm telling you is not exactly accurate. This is not the source control save to project, where I'm invoking the same method that Acumatica would call when publishing the project. So it does generate all the artifacts that could be saved into GitHub, but this is not exactly the same thing as doing a save project. But where I'm going with this is that the code that you guys are looking for is likely in the same area of Acumatica. I know it was internal and I had to use reflection and disassembly to find it, but it was, you know, still pretty good finding. Let's see if that still works out. Customer ext, is it customer x or b account? Using px.object.cr. Yeah, the field was added in b account x likely. B account x, my extension, and now if I do my x dot, it's still working. So the code that was dynamically generated by Acumatica got saved locally. I saved this, and I'll show you where it's up.
Wow, that's awesome.
But my idea, and this could be used for Hackathon project, is that you could like basically invoke the same thing and have a Visual Studio extension that would run this logic on the Acumatica instance after you pull code.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm thinking.
You'll keep the project synced.
Yeah, I think it's in CST Designer. Yeah, there you go. So I save in CST Designer, but you have the runtime code that's been generated, and it gets version. But I mean, again, you would likely be able to reverse engineer and find the same location or same comment that does that. And happy to help you out if you want to embark on this project.
Sweet. Yeah, no, for sure. Huh.
All right, well, we have about 5 more minutes, so if you guys have any more questions for Gabriel, that'd be great.
I think I have just a quick one. Sorry. Yeah, like
no, go ahead.
Yeah, you were mentioning before about developers kind of only focusing on the framework and not the business. Now, what strategy, like this is a struggle for a lot, I think, developers to transition to that business part. For Acumatica specifically, would you recommend they do the certification on parts of Acumatica, or is there like a different approach that you took?
Yeah, definitely. This is something that I was asking every developer at Acumatica Labs to do. Like F100 training, I think is critical for everyone. You need to understand like the basics of GL. You don't need to be an accountant. It's not very hard, but you need to have this basic understanding. And then based on the different modules or sections of the code they'll be working on, if they're, let's say, working on project accounting, it's a must. You have to understand how it works, how it's designed. Otherwise, you will make all sorts of mistakes. And Mark, this is something that we were discussing last time when talking about methodologies. It's very important to, I think, understand the domain and take the time to understand the domain that you're working on, and not, jump straight to coding. On the other hand, I mean, you need to find a balance between being like too agile and like spending too much time upfront. Building your requirements, analyzing, and so on. That's my take.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think Kyle asked a question last time about how you approach projects, and it kind of weaves into this idea of not to over-architect in the front end, right? There's a balance you were talking about.
Yeah,
Kyle?
we're talking about the customization framework. Which was an afterthought in like my first ERP system, and today I feel like this is something that is a must. And if you look at the history behind Acumatica, and I'm sure you heard it before, they were actually building a framework for a billing solution. It was not an ERP at first, But like the first few months, maybe first few years, were all spent on building a framework. But this is something that, even with months of research, I would not have been able to come up with, because I did not have enough experience. So this is the type of stuff that comes with experience, building, trying, failing, and like if I can end like with one message or one very important takeaway, like you need to have passion. Okay, number of hours you put researching, trying stuff, failing will make you better. It's not just about learning like the latest and greatest programming language, but also like digging through like systems, understanding fundamentals, data structures, reverse engineering products, just looking at how things are designed and done, like trying different pieces of software. Like good example, I had like this is back when you bought like shrink wrap copies of software, but I had like all the competitors' products on my desk. And anytime they would release something, I would buy it and look at it. And, this would, give me ideas, see how people are addressing the same requirements. So it's very helpful. The good news today is that there's a community. You have other developers that you can talk to, get feedback, ask questions. You can run ideas by others and see like if you're on the right track or if you're, going on the wrong direction.
Yeah. One thing I heard and that I've noticed with successful people is the idea of, don't be afraid to fail, right? Just try things, and it's okay to fail. You learn more from your failures, I think, than your success. Would you agree with that in your journey?
Yes. And I honestly wished I had failed more and
There's a nice quote for that. I don't know if I remember it verbatim, but it's something on the order of a master has failed more times than a beginner has tried.
Yeah, I don't like failure, and I think that when you're younger, it's easier, and you need to learn that. So I'm glad like one of my daughters like failed a job interview. She's 17. And like she was devastated, but I think it was very important learning for her. But I wish like that my parents had pushed me like into like very difficult like places so that I could fail more, because it makes you better. But this is something that I only realized later on.
Yeah.
There's an agile saying as well: fail fast, fail often.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I like that in terms of a QA environment and an isolated environment. I'm not so fond of it in terms of production, because I don't like being in that scenario where that metaphor you had with the airplane earlier, and you got your experienced developers out on the wing fixing it as the plane is flying. It's not fun being there. But in terms of like getting it into a QA quickly, having QA help find the failures fast, it's a nice paradigm there.
Yeah. I completely agree with you, Robert.
Well, we're going to wrap it up here. I really appreciate everyone for coming in and asking questions, and especially Gabriel, thank you so much for your time and sharing some of your lessons learned and some wisdom to help our developer community. It's much appreciated. So I'll see you at Summit. Unfortunately, you won't be doing the hackathon this year, but still get to see you, and it'll be nice to see everyone actually after a year and a half of this COVID stuff, right? That we get together in Vegas. So I'm looking forward to those of you who are coming out at the end of this week and to participate in the hackathon and our dev track. So I'll see all of you very soon. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of your week. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
See ya.